Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of Notes from Chicago. I'm Ashley Phillips. Today, we are so excited. We have Steph Krim with us today. Steph is the founder of Good Things Vending. Steph, thanks so much for joining us.
Hi, Ashley. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to chat.
Yay! So before we get started into Good Things Vending, we always like to ask our guests, what do you love about Chicago?
I love the people. I love the people in Chicago. I think that I grew up on the East Coast and I came here for college, and I just found that there is this kind of hunger here that feels like it wraps in easily with community and feels like it's something that like connects everybody. Everybody wants so much, but it doesn't sort of separate us. And I think that's so beautiful. I also think I love that we're a water city. I think people don't think about us that way, but it's like a lovely thing to have access to, and I'm always grateful when I can see the way that that's impacted how the city moves.
Let's get into your work with Good Things Vending. I want to give a little context about how I even discovered it. This happened maybe like a year and a half ago. I was with my daughter. We were at Garfield Park Conservatory, as we do in the winter, to hide away. She was kind of complaining about being hungry, and I saw like far away like this vending machine kind of like tucked into a corner, and I was like, oh well, maybe there's something in this old looking vending machine. And I turn around and I look at it and I'm like, whoa, what is happening here? This is so cool. I thought, I saw all these little art projects. I think I saw a pair of sunglasses. Like I just it was not what I was expecting. And then seeing it kind of like what looked like a pretty vintage vending machine was just really interesting to see. And also for my daughter and I, like a conversation starter. So we started talking about all the little projects. She's 10 now. She was probably 9 at the time, 9 or 8 at the time. And just started talking about all these projects that were within the machine. So number one, thank you, because what a cool idea. But talk about what Good Things Vending is.
In my head, I'm like, did she get a snack though? Like, is she okay? Like, she's trying to eat? Because I'm so sorry. I had nothing to feed her. Practically, we take full-size snack vending machines. We usually from like trash machines, and we get them refreshed and refurbished. We have a local artist paint them, and then they're stocked with local art, vintage, and nostalgia items. Conceptually, it's exactly what you said. It's like this opportunity to do something unexpected and to connect community, and it gets this incredible world of makers that live here in front of eyes that may not have seen them otherwise, and in spaces where they may not have had opportunities to be. So it's like a little bit of everything, but really it's meant to be like a kind of a joy bomb,
Yeah. Mission accomplished, I think, for sure.
Thank you.
How did you decide to do this? What made you, like, how long ago did you start it, and what gave you this idea?
In the beautiful way that sometimes life goes, it's kind of a combination of everything I've ever loved. Like, it's the thing that makes the most sense for me. And when I tell people that this is what I'm doing now that have known me, they're always like, oh yeah, that's where this was going to end. I grew up in a family that had a catalog auction, so it was sort of an odd experience. They were self-employed, and it was kind of an odd way to grow up, and it took us to Japan a lot. So I was like by myself as a 7-year-old walking around in Japan, and the vending machines were so accessible. I didn't need to talk to anybody, and it cost very little money, and it felt like it was for me. So I think that kind of imprinted on some like kid part of my soul, and it has meant that throughout my whole life I've always been attracted to vending machines. And came out to Chicago to go to art school, had this big, beautiful, creative hospitality career, love that space, respect that space, didn't want to be in that space anymore. It asked too much of me. Like, I wanted to live a silly life, and hospitality is like really committed work. And it was one night, like the right Google led me down this path of Horn and Hardart, the old automat in New York. It's an eatery. And it just got me thinking about automation and all of these sort of older versions of technological automation and where those existed. Any machine that you like pull a lever on or press a button on that makes something physical happen. I just got really excited about that and wanted to find where that existed in a contemporary format. And the end of that was deciding to buy a vending machine. And at that moment, I was like, if you buy a vending machine, you have to do something with a vending machine because you can't be 80 years old with a vending machine in your garage being like, if only I had. And my community was creatives. My community was these like artists, and the hospitality world here is steeped with like creative community. So it just started with like asking the people that I knew if they would be okay with putting things in this machine. And it grew from there in a way I couldn't have imagined.
Where do you buy a vending machine, a used vending machine?
Such a good question. I'm actually working on an ebook because I get that question a lot and it's like kind of a variable answer. I'll say there's places that will sell you vending machines. Those are going to be a little bit more expensive. They might need to be shipped from another state, but they're guaranteed machines, which is great. I love Craigslist and Marketplace because the truth is there's vending machines everywhere. Every community has a snack vending machine industry. And that means that there's like old timers that are swapping out old machines for new machines. And depending on how much you're willing to tinker, I mean, you can get an old machine for like $400 or $500 online. It's not, it won't do all the things, like it may not have a credit card reader, blah, 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 but it's super accessible and there's a shocking amount of them.
So you have this idea, you buy this vending machine, you ask people you know to start, to put stuff in the machine. For that first machine, how did you figure out, where did you put it, and how did you get the opportunity to put it in that place?
So from hospitality, I had connected with the folks at Leatherby Distillery. They're like a local gin distiller. And they were also making some Malort under the name Besk. And they were like friends from hospitality. And what I'll say about Chicago in general and the hospitality industry here is that we all like see each other's scrappiness. Everybody sees everybody else's side hustle. So I was in a third floor walk up and the machines are like 500 to 600 pounds. So that was not an option. So I just sort of asked around, and then the guys at Leatherby were like, yeah, you can put it here. Thank goodness, because it ended up sitting there for a really long time. It was there for much longer than I had anticipated. But luckily, the Nate Ozog, who worked there, he was like so tech savvy. So he like would poke around with the machine with me. And that period of time was a really lovely, idea filled. That was like 2018, 2019 was like thinking it up, getting the first machine, tinkering. Yeah. And I was getting a lot of like thrift store stuff. I was making products. I was putting things in to see what vended. It was a lot of learning.
What were some of the first things that went in that machine?
I have a picture and I like laugh when I look back at it. I had gone to the American Science and Surplus yearly warehouse sale and I got jumbo playing cards. I had some from the Kane County Flea Market. I had gotten some cassette singles. I had cassette singles in there.
Oh, wow.
my friend Tanner Bowman had made these drippy lighters, which actually were in the machine until they relocated to a different city. And Cities and Dust hair clips. I got like a short run of Cities and Dust hair clips. Wild Yonder bath soaps. They're actually like a Wisconsin company, but I was just searching around and I was buying 10 of things. It wasn't what we're doing now. It wasn't hundreds. It was like, I need to fill these rows. It felt like an insane, it was 400 items, and that felt really profound. So just little by little. And then thrift store, I would like always look for patches, mini games, put a lot of things in bags myself, and I made products.
What was the reception to that first machine?
I had to beg to get it somewhere. It was originally going to go to the Chicago Athletic Association hotel because I had some connections there through hospitality stuff. But I asked 40 locations. Between machine 1 and 2, I mean, it was above 40 spots that I had reached out to, just being like, hey, please, I have this vending machine. I think you might want it. Reception was kind of a slow roll. I had such a lovely community backing me that I didn't really start paying attention to how other people were receiving it for a little bit. I was really focused on the artists that were putting goods in the machine because there was a lot of personal overlap, and And it was scary. It felt vulnerable to be like, give me some of your work. I'm going to try to sell it in this way. I've never sold anything before. Um, so I think it was really machine two where I started to tune into how other people were feeling about it. I also should say that I had a baby. I gave birth about 4 months after the first machine launched,
Oh
maybe
my.
3 months after the first machine launched. So some of this period of time I've blacked out on, like there's like a good chunk of this where like days and nights bleed together and I'm at the machine with a newborn and I'm, like late at night typing things on my computer. I think I was so out of it that I was just white knuckling trying to bring this thing into existence. But when I found out I was pregnant, there was this diverging moment of like, do I have to get a job that isn't this crazy thing? Or do I just double down and go extra hard on this crazy thing and try to get it established before I have a kid? And got that first machine in. But then when the second machine launched, it was at Metropolitan Brewing, which is such a massive space with so much community. And I found that I was like more present on site because where I'm at in the cultural center is this gorgeous welcome center, this room that's just meant for people to walk around. There's no attendance, there's no people. So it just sort of like sits and exists there. The Metropolitan machine sometimes felt very alive. It would have really busy days where I'd have to actually go and like attend to it. And that meant that I got to watch people use the machine. And that really changed it. I mean, that was the first time that I got some press around the project. It was the first time that I had people coming that I didn't know and following the social media page. But I think for me, it's always like been about the like individual comments. Like I remember the lady that drove with her daughter and they were deciding which Harry Potter world to go to, and they chose Chicago because they wanted to see a vending machine.
Wait,
And
what?
yeah, there was like a touring Harry Potter exhibit and they had like choices of where to go. And they messaged me online and I drove from my house to meet them at the machine because I just was like so honored. I've wanted to belong my whole life. I've been surrounded by people that are so talented and so capable and just grew up insecure enough that I think I spent a lot of my early life trying to prove my value in a space. I photographed for years, I think, for that same reason. Having a camera and capturing people in a way that made them feel good about themselves was such a gift. And I think to feel like instead of performing for other people, it was this really like natural product of my community and my existence. And then to have people respond so positively, ooh, I wanted to fold the whole world in to like that bubble.
Yeah. Now that, you've been doing this for several years, how do you decide how many machines do you have first now?
10.
10.
And we're going to be launching, I think, 3 this year.
Okay. How do you decide what you put in the machines? And do you think about this type of project would be good in this machine in this particular location, and with another location you might put something else in it?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we sort of have 3 flavors in the fleet. We get some cool back end data from the credit card reader. So as we go, we become more responsive to a particular location. Like if I notice that the people at the Campbell Arts Center love pop culture, I'm more likely to put the Beanie Baby reference thing in there, the Pokemon reference thing in there. I know that the Chicago Cultural Center loves the Chicago flag. So when we buy the Field Notes Chicago flag notebooks or somebody's letterpressed card that has the Chicago flag, it's more likely to go there. Each one has a flavor, but it takes probably about 4 or 5 months for us to learn that flavor. And then when we're opening, we collaborate with the location and we try to extract as much information that we can about their denizens, their guests. Who are your regulars? Are they, Kaiser Tiger is filled with cat lovers and game players. And Way Out is like bike enthusiasts, drag show attendees, tarot fans. It's you learn. And what I'll say is that we have a really wide curation. It's slow. It's a slow trickle. So I think people sometimes are like, I applied a year ago and I haven't heard back. Sometimes that's the pace of it, but our goal is to put all work that is compatible in a machine. We retain a small set of consignment items, which allows for us to trial anything. And I think keeping it open like that the machine is not meant to be created for me or for you or for any one person. The machine is like meant to have something for everyone in it. So I think that the goal for us is to play around, to listen to our intuition on what feels right for a location, and to try things. It's really low stakes. There's very few losses if we try something and it's not the right fit. Items often move between machines. If we find something sits for a long time, we'll relocate it and try it at a different location.
So originally, or when you started, you were asking people you knew to put things in these machines, or you were sourcing them yourselves. And now it sounds like it's well known enough, or Good Vending is well known enough that people are applying to. They're asking you to be in these machines.
Yeah, we did a call to artists last year, which was so fun, but also I did not have the infrastructure to uphold it. Like along this whole path, it's just I'm constantly blown away by the reception and like so grateful. And also having not anticipated it, sometimes it takes me by surprise. And there was like a little bit of a bottleneck that happened as a product of that. And brought in an amazing team member, Renee, who now focuses on the artist communication portion, really being able to uphold the goal, which is to support artists at any stage in their career to be able to package and prepare an item to be vendable in the machine. So that's made a massive difference. And Renee spent the last like 6 months focusing on making sure that anybody that she can sort of find record of has communication. The truth though is that like when it was just me, it was kind of messy. So we're going to do another call to artists hopefully this summer, and it'll be like a great opportunity to reset and say, this is like a fresh system, a fresh way. If you've applied in the past and you haven't heard back, sincerest apologies. That's probably my fault, but we want your work. Like, please come again. So I think we grow as the response grows. And this is the first time that I felt a little bit ahead. And I think that it'll open up our capacity for what we can vend. But we've vended the work of over 500 artists.
Wow, that's incredible. Do you now have locations asking, or businesses asking, coming to you and asking to put a machine in their space?
Yeah, we have a really long wait list.
Okay.
Yeah. And I'll say that like not every location is exactly fit for what we're trying to build. We lean towards locations that are open to the public for the most part. We want a space that doesn't already have a really robust retail offering. We don't want to compete with the amazing like store that you curated.
Yeah.
We love when there's a big turnover on people, because at the end of the day, the goal is to get different eyes on Chicago artists, and a space that sees like changing foot traffic, changing identities. So, like a snack machine does great in an apartment building, but I think that our machines are not as well suited for an environment like that. So yeah, we get to choose now, which is like wild, and I'm honored. And I also hope that other people will, and I see this whole industry is growing since I started. Yeah. There's like this explosion of all these different formats of using automated machines as like a retail disruptor. And I think that'll just continue. So I hope that every location that wants one eventually gets some kind of machine. I'm just not sure that, it probably won't be ours.
You'll launch 3 more machines this year.
That's what it's looking like. Maybe one might roll over into next year, but yeah, looking like 3.
Do you already know where they will live?
I do.
Yeah.
I do. I think that I can tell you about one of them. But I'm not like totally sure. I can definitely like hint a little bit. We have been talking for a while about collaborating with WBEZ for a machine on Navy Pier. So it looks like that's cool. This year.
A few minutes ago, you mentioned that you are working on a book. Talk a little bit more, and it's about the business, or not about the business, about maybe how to start a business like this. Talk a little bit about that.
We had one video in 2021 that popped off, and the social media audience grew from being 4,000, 5,000 people to being 40,000 people overnight. We actually just hit 100K yesterday, which it's just a number, but I got to tell you, I have the most incredible, supportive audience. One time I was driving down the street, and a lady in the opposite lane rolled down her window and was like, "Do you do Good Things Vending?" And we still message. It was like we had such a lovely exchange at a traffic light. And every single one of those people feels like an opportunity to have those kinds of interactions. And being overwhelmed, I just haven't really been able to show up for this growing community the way that I'd like. And a lot of folks had questions. This is such an accessible kind of business to start. And I feel
Yeah.
so non competitive about it. There is an unbelievable amount of space for vending machine businesses to exist. And nobody can replicate mine because it's a very specific product of me and my community. So you could really set out to make the exact same thing and it would just be different by virtue of it being touched by different people. So it
Yeah.
feels like this beautiful opportunity to share. And I'm trying to figure out a way to do that like at scale. So been actually working on it for 2 years. But just finished all the copy and now I'm trying to format it into something that looks decent, and the goal is to get it out so that I think a lot of times the hardest part of starting something is being at that stage where you have a clear vision but you know almost nothing of what it feels like you need to know. I'm sure you know something, but there's this feeling of like, I don't know anything about vending machines. I've never run a, it's like can be really
Yeah.
intimidating. So the goal for me was to make a really succinct, like 5, 6 part ebook that would cover the main chunks: how to get a machine, how to pitch with locations, how to work with locations, how to deal with product, both curation and like practical components. And then just some other stuff about like the scary parts and a little bit of pep talking because I can't help myself. I just like really believe in people. And the goal is to put it out at like a accessible price so that it begins to grow the community. And as a teaser that I can tell you, I've been so inspired by the sidewalk joy like movement in Portland, by this like map that they've made, by the
Yeah.
way that they've taken these disparate components and they've connected them, that we like built a Google map this week and started to plug in all the machines that we know.
Oh,
And the
cool.
goal is to like create a form and to have this be a global map that you can reference where you can find weird machines around you. And I think that all of that feels like starting to create a way, like I want Good Things Vending to help centralize this industry that's developing, because there's so much like power and connection that can come from all of us relating with each other and being in community with each other. So I think the ebook, I think like the community map, they're this attempt to both broaden and also pull in the growing world of people who are doing weird stuff with vending machines.
Do you think that this would, you mentioned this interaction that you had with this woman at the traffic light, which is very fun and cool. Do you think there's something about Chicago, or like the Chicago community, or whether it's the arts community or just Chicago in general, that made this more possible or made this idea more likely to succeed?
Yeah, 1,000%. Cannot say it enough. One of my like taglines earlier on was like, "Oh, it's my love letter to Chicago." I think that every place has its own flavor, but I really believe at its core, Chicago wants you to succeed. It will humble you in the process, but like the community here is proud of anything that's Chicago related. Like, no matter where we go, we're like, they're from Chicago. I mean, the Pope is a perfect example. That was like the Cubs had won after a dry spell. People were in the streets being like, I love the Pope, because
Yeah.
there's this unbelievable pride to this place. And I think I felt like the moment that I claimed some sort of Chicago identity to my business, this wave of city love came my way. And that might exist other places, but there's a kind of like scrappy, humble, full hearted, we'll cuss you out, but we'll like give you a towel if you like get splashed, like it's like something that I am an East Coaster. So it wasn't what I grew up in, but I find it so stunning and like raw and real, but also kind in ways, and like stretches towards other people in ways that maybe I didn't experience as much. And I feel like I've been so loved by the city. Yeah, I feel it, like it makes me feel kind of emotional because I think that when I came here in 2008, I didn't know that I would be here forever. I was trying to find home base. I didn't want to be where I had grown up. And I just have been in love with this place for so long that to feel it love me back this loudly is like wild. And I'm sure that happens other places, but I also know that in Chicago, the first question that you're asked isn't where do you work, who do you know? It's what do you do? You know, where have you been outside? What park did you go to? What food are you eating? What's your favorite song right now? Like there's something so non-performative about the way that we love each other, and that for me has been, I mean, it's made it possible for me to have a business. Period. The end. Like this, I maybe somebody else could have done it someplace else. I don't know that I could have.
Amazing. Yeah, I totally agree with all of that. That's so great and like really heartwarming. I always get emotional like a little bit like when kind of I think about like what's possible in Chicago when I talk to people and just talking to you now, I'm like, it's true. It's true.
Especially now that the sun's coming out. You know what I mean? Like, I just think there's a way that people say hi to each other. I have a kid, he's 4, and and he's kind of like a little bit more Midwestern than I am in his bones. There's like this way that he rushes to open a door or says hi to everybody that he passes. And um, I just think I feel really grateful to have landed here because I think you can be anywhere. There's like a lot of freedom in this life, but I feel like I landed in Chicago and it's held me. Like it's hugged me tight enough that I never left.
You have a partnership coming up with the CTA. I don't know if it's with the CTA or just CTA themed machines.
They've supported it. They've like created the opportunity for it to happen. They're not like involved in the doing, but everything goes through them to make sure that it's like in line with what they're trying to build. Um, I love heritage stuff. Like I was talking to a friend of mine about the things in the city that I love, and when I first moved here, my favorite buildings were the Cultural Center and Garfield Park Conservatory and the library, because I think that there's something about municipal infrastructure, even though that's not all like super municipal, like Garfield Park's sort of its own thing, but there's something about city stuff that feels cool to me, like very cool in a very like canon cool kind of way. You know, there's a cool water, there's a cool backpack. Well, I think the cultural center is cool. I think transit systems are cool. I think post office boxes are cool. I love water towers. You know, that's like always been an attraction for me. So I think that when these opportunities started to show up with the cultural center, with Garfield Park Conservatory, it opened up this space of collaborating with areas that are intended to be for the people. And when the CTA reached out, number one, honored. Number two, it like exploded my brain and started to just dream up all these dreams, like pitched them and could probably still do at some point this like pop-up newsstand that I dream of executing. So it's been a really expansive partnership in terms of like their openness to ideas. But at the end of the day, they were trying to bring that identity piece to riders in a way that they could take home with them. Some other transit systems have gift shops. CTA has an amazing gift program, and that stuff just wasn't directly accessible to the riders. So the idea was, can we put it somewhere where the same people who are using this tool to connect through the city can also connect via this machine to all these artists and also CTA's branding and identity. And when that entered the table, it was like, wow, if we're talking about artists and branding. So pitched them this like collab project where we re-envision the heritage identity of CTA through the lens of different artists. And it's like going to be a slow roll program that we'll hopefully do for as long as they let us, where we just workshop with usually one artist at a time. Sometimes we're cooking on two. Some really cool new CTA artist collaborative items. So we have another round that's about to drop that I'm very excited about. 3 pins, limited edition, and a sticker sheet. And it's just, the artist Zelda Gluski is like so amazing, makes phenomenal work, and I just can't wait to see him. And I think in general, the goal of that program is to continue to weave together the things that make the city up. You know, the artists of the city represent every neighborhood, every demographic, and the transit system is for everybody. And it feels like to continue to invite artists in to play with and reimagine the identity that they've built feels like a really ripe opportunity for everybody. And as somebody who loves the train, I want train pins, you know?
Yeah. What's next? for Good Things. You just mentioned this idea, this crazy idea you have about doing a newsstand. Well, do you
Yeah.
think it will always be machines that you're like vending machines that you're working on, or could it take another form or additional forms?
Such a good question. We do have like a web store now on the website, and we have been using that as a fun space to make some of the artwork in the machines accessible, and also weird stuff like in the process of acquiring the machines in the inventory. Sometimes we do things like buy stuff from auction. So, like, there's giant Terminators and like weird old ephemera. So it feels like a fun opportunity to create like a little bit of a marketplace so that a bit of what we've created in the machines, that joyful, playful thing, can be accessible outside of Chicago. I think that the goal for me, the big things that I have in mind right now have a lot to do with this next level of organizing what we're doing. So we really have the machines under wraps. We like know what we're doing, we know what our capacity is. I think the next phase for us is figuring out how we connect to community, how we help people who are interested in doing their own vending machine businesses, how we continue to expand the opportunities for artists and expand the clarity on how to work with us. You know, this call to artists takes a lot of energy. We're going to do some in-person events. We're going to do some Zoom meetings where folks can ask questions remotely. I think in a lot of ways, the last 7 years of running the business have felt like kind of one ramp, and having the team have grown, having there be more internal infrastructure, having the kinds of partnerships that we've gotten and the projects that come up next. Now it feels like we get to look kind of like more holistically at what we want to be doing, less at like each machine and more at like what do people how do people want to be interacting with Good Things Vending, and are we equipped to respond to that? And then I think that there's always this looming question of how does this exist in other places? It's a question that gets asked all the time, where I'm really aware of all the different answers that exist. And I feel like cautiously optimistic that we might be beginning to understand what it could look like for this to be many places. Um, but the truth is, I'm kind of a wave rider. Like, I believe in time flows, not timelines. I think that things happen in slipstreams, and like something that feels like it hasn't been moving all of a sudden will start going. And I think part of what I've learned is to trust myself and to keep dreaming of the 5 year vision, but to not let it be like an anchor in the future. Instead, to have it be like a goalpost that we're moving towards. And it's so responsive to community and to the internal team
Yeah.
that I don't know, but we're definitely putting the work in to figure it out.
You talked about before getting that first machine out, being at a crossroads,
Hmm.
or when you were pregnant, you're
Yeah.
like, oh gosh, do I need to get a serious job? Not a
Hmm.
serious job, but like a 9 to 5,
Consistent. Yeah.
right? Something more consistent, or do I double down and you know do this thing I've been dreaming of and really believe in? For people who are in similar situations, whether they're artists or anyone, what is the advice that you would give them?
Well, first I have to acknowledge my privilege. Like, I was in a partnership at the time with somebody who had a stable job, which created this kind of safety to fail. You know, I didn't have like I couldn't totally blow the thing up, but I think that I had the ability to be a little bit more flexible. I mean, it was still a struggle, and in that time I held many other small jobs. I have a booth at an antique mall. I was doing an Etsy shop. So like, I think that the first thing that I always want to do is like paint some reality in there and just say it wasn't like I woke up and said I'm all in on Good Things Vending and was able to financially cut it from there. It took a lot of figuring. What I will say is that I learn the most about myself when I push myself out of the areas that I'm comfortable. And I think it's a fine line because I don't want to push myself into danger, but I don't want to stay where I know that I'm safe. And what I'll say is like, I think like if you're there and you're struggling, you don't know what you're capable of until you put yourself in the position to find out. And there are ways that you will be able to show up and solve problems that you've never seen before that are going to change how your brain is shaped, and it's going to change how you build. And you can kind of only figure that out under a little bit of pressure. And it's like terrifying, but at the end of the day, I also believe in moving slow. I never bit off enough that it could sink me. I saved up for a year to buy one machine, sat on that for a year and a half to buy machine number 2. Those 2 bought 2 and 3. So at any point, I wasn't sinking like my whole life into the machines. I was trying to move slow enough, and saying no. Saying yes to the wrong opportunity can cost a lot. It can cost a lot. So moving slow, saying no, trusting yourself. If it feels hard, you're doing the right thing. Like, learning is not always comfortable, and recognizing the crunchy feeling in my brain when I'm like overwhelmed and I don't know what the right answer is as a sign that I'm moving in the right direction has really changed things for me. But I think the number one thing that I would say is like, you can do anything. Like, I believe in you, and I believe in you because I believe in people. Like, we just have such an unbelievable capacity. And if you care enough and you want to put the time in, I think you could go to the moon.
Something we like to ask at the end of every episode is, when people come visit, what are the things that you tell them they have to do in Chicago?
Well, this is funny because this comes back to our other conversation. Me and everybody else in the whole world mentions the architecture tour, and everybody acts like we're crazy because it's like a tourist trap, but it's not. And it's because you get to see this view of the eclectic, human-built city of Chicago, and you get to see it as this water city. It's such an earnest view. It's like such an honest view of Chicago, I feel like. And also just like a boat that serves drinks, and it's like fun and cool. Obviously, Garfield Park Conservatory, every time, top of the top, stunning. I love the zoo. I think having a free city zoo is pretty exceptional. And the fact that it's walking distance to another conservatory at the Lincoln Park Conservatory, right on the water, like that's a great day right there. Tons of good cafes and stuff. But for me, people talk about New York. They're like, just go pick an area and walk. I feel similarly about Chicago. You just don't walk in a straight line. You walk in like circles, like I think any neighborhood that you go to is so full of its own life and identity. And as much as there's structural issues with the like segregation in this city, I think that we have this really vibrant neighborhood to neighborhood experience that you can have. You get this taste of so many different communities, and I think that would be my do the heavy hitters. They're good. They're actually cool. But also, if you have a free day, just drop yourself off anywhere and wander around.
Amazing. Steph, thank you so much. This was so much fun. I learned a lot.
It was really nice to meet you, Ashley, and I hope it's not our last conversation. I'm really looking forward to listening to what you have going on next.
Thanks. Thank you for listening to Notes from Chicago. This podcast is edited and produced by Tanisha Blakely. Be sure to like, follow, and subscribe to Notes from Chicago on YouTube and wherever you listen to podcasts.